time we give back. Sow a seed and show someone where love's at. Even if you don't give a dime, give your heart and share your time. Help somebody else in life. Give back. Let's give back.
Welcome to this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform, where we showcase urban superheroes here in the Bronx and around the world. I am your host, Hosea James Gavan II. Today, we have a very special guest coming from Minneapolis, Mr. James Holmes. Here we go. Welcome, James, to this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform. This is our second interview, man. And Ship, I'm appreciative of you taking this time to join us. I just want to kind of revisit some of the same topics that we talked about in our first interview. You being in Minneapolis, you being at the epicenter of a movement that shocked and impacted the world. The murder of George Floyd this past spring, had a devastating impact on not just your community, but again, on communities around the world. And just to start off, I want you to talk about the location and its relevance to your particular personal history.
Thank you, Hosea, and thank you for having me on this morning. I greatly appreciate the platform.
Absolutely.
The George Floyd murder was located in South Minneapolis on 38th in Chicago. On 39th in Chicago is Phelps Park. I grew up at Phelps Park, basically, literally most of the week. I played sports year-round there, baseball, football. I consider that home. So when the murder of George Floyd happened, 1 block away from Phelps Park, it was personal to me. And admittedly, it did hit a nerve. It hit a raw nerve. I chose to take a positive approach to it. We have a company called Black Lion Inc., and under that is our Black Lion Foundation. We have written into our profit side to do some funding for the foundation, get it started to help with social justice and things like that. However, we really didn't think that would kick off till probably 2021. So in effect, what the George Floyd murder did for us was it accelerated that process, because no longer could I stand idle while so many of our people were being taken advantage of and abused in so many ways. Abused physically, abused financially, in so many ways. So with Black Lion Foundation, we address that. It's an economic development foundation, and we try to focus on the root of the problem. And the root of the problem to us is economics. Symptoms are the brutality that the police have on us, as well as the brutality that we have on each other, and just so many of the other dysfunctional things that we deal with in society. But once we strengthen our economy and our economics and our finances, we will be much, much better equipped to deal with so many of the racial injustices.
You know what, man, as I mentioned to you offline, there was a post that you made on Facebook that took me back to our days at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. You and I served as part of a support team as a result of young women being harassed on our campus. One of our schoolmates, Greg Jones, created an organization called the Omega Patrol, and you and I served together on that patrol. And then I saw a scene that you posted that brought me right back to a time where brothers were coming together to protect an area that they felt responsible for. You and I guess about a half dozen of the brothers in that Minneapolis area, in that Minneapolis community, were standing to protect a grocery store, because many of the grocery stores, this was the last grocery store in that particular community that had not been looted. I want you to talk about that particular scenario, because again, man, it filled my heart just to see brothers stepping up like that. It really did.
Absolutely, and I will tell you that that whole scenario was a heated scene. That was in the midst or the aftermath of George Floyd murder, and then really it was chaos going on in Minneapolis at the time. So much of the city was destroyed, burned, looted, and so forth. And a target, for whatever reason, oftentimes were Black-owned establishments. That, is a topic for another day that I still don't totally understand. Totally. I understand parts of it. So there was one remaining grocery store called Solo Grocery Stores in North Minneapolis, and it was significant for that grocery store to stay open because it was the last African-American owned store in town, in all of North Minneapolis. So it was significant. It was significant as far as our elders being able to get food and supplies. If that store would have been destroyed, then they would have had to go to the next town over, which is approximately 20 miles, and it's just too inconvenient for so many people. So what happened there, and I will tell you straight up, I cannot take full credit for that. I was just only one of the business owners standing out in front of Solo. And so what we did was we surrounded Solo with really a lot of business owners and clergy to protect that, to prevent it from being burnt down and destroyed. And then we had some other help too, as far as just some reinforcements, as far as some muscle. But during that time, I noticed a lot of things. And the interesting thing is, the people that we saw coming around seeking to destroy it, believe it or not, they were not Black. They were, some white supremacists were there, and some Antifa members were there too. So they were on the far left and the far right. And guess what? We're in the middle, but we did come together, and we did protect that particular grocery store from being destroyed. And to me, the microcosm of that is that in a larger sense, that's what ultimately we need to do as African-American men, is continue to come together in all regards for the betterment of our people.
I totally agree. And we're going to take a quick public service announcement break. On the other side of this, we're going to take a look at that scene, and then we'll be right back.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Remember that to love America is to love all Americans, because love has no labels.
Welcome back to this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform. We are here with my very good friend and fraternity brother, James Holmes. James is based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he's giving us an account of what took place after the George Floyd murder this past spring. And I'm going to ask, James, you had mentioned the Black Lion Foundation and the Black Lions' response to that whole catastrophe, tragedy. Can you share with the audience the mission statement, your purpose? I know you alluded to it, but I know you're also involved in some really, really amazing projects that are impacting young people in a very significant way. My brother.
Thank you, Jose. I'll try to give you the Cliff Note versions. Probably the best way to really access some more detailed information is to go to our website, which is www.blacklionfoundation.com. That's blacklionfoundation.com. But just briefly, our mission is to address the disparities as far as wealth and economics through job placements, job creations, as well as business startups. So we have formulated agreements with several corporations in the Twin City area where we actually can place individuals with jobs. We assist young entrepreneurs with startups also from A to Z. Go on the website and you'll get an idea of that, because we feel like when our people have better choices, they make better decisions.
Right.
And so, like I mentioned to you earlier, I got to a point in my life where I could no longer just stand on the sidelines and think to myself, we can do better than that. So I've thrown my hat into the ring full force with our foundation, and we work very, 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 very hard on these initiatives. We have several projects coming in the spring and the summer. So just keep your eyes and ears open.
But I know you're already involved in some projects. I know you've been meeting with young people, conducting seminars in real time, and I think what I most appreciate about what I've heard and what I've seen is that, like you just mentioned, you took a proactive attempt to try to create opportunities and create situations that will stem the tide in terms of future scenarios that we just experienced there in Minneapolis. You're taking the initiative in real time to make sure we ward off those types of situations by building strong young people, teaching them how to respond to situations in appropriate ways. In the case of George Floyd, what could he have done? I mean, there is no, he didn't do anything wrong, but we still have to do the best we can to equip our young people with the information, with the knowledge to be successful. And I got to commend you, Shep, on everything that you've been doing with your foundation. But your foundation is also connected with an entrepreneurial venture that you're embarking on as well, correct?
Absolutely. That's a good part of it. We call it the Black Lion Foundation Entrepreneurship Academy. And on the website, you can get more detailed information on that. So really anyone in the Twin Cities area, if they want to start their business, we will support them in their efforts. Also, there are several businesses that we've already started up. And so if you're looking at a way to actually support some of our young people that are trying to do positive things as far as being multipliers within our own communities and with our people and so forth, I encourage you to use those companies as far as some of their products or donate to them because they're working hard. They're really doing good work. The point there is that African Americans actually have $1.3 trillion in buying power. Isn't that crazy? $1.3 trillion in buying power. But we don't really see it because as far as actual wealth, it's not transferring into actual tangible wealth, something that passes from generation to generation, because 97% of African American money is spent other places other than with African American businesses. And so when you drive through certain places like in Minneapolis, North Minneapolis, down Broadway Avenue, it just looks almost like a war zone because there hasn't been any financial attention paid to it. So we need to turn that around. We can, and it can be done. I'll give you an example. Just say one of our businesses, if they're generating $5,000 profit per month, okay, over time that multiplies greatly. We've done the math, and you'll see the math on our website. Literally, we want to get to the point to where we got millions going back because all that money from Black businesses, statistically, depending on which economist you're listening to, turns 6 to 8 times. Okay, and so that really multiplies. I mean, I've done math on my website where it could be 36 million a year turned back into the African American community, and it's very achievable. As a matter of fact, we're not going to just talk about it; we're going to make it happen.
Amen. Amen. Ship, I can't. I'm in a place now that when I see Black men stepping up, I rejoice. I rejoice because I know how important it is in these times. We're going to take another quick public service announcement break, and then we'll be right back with Mr. James Holmes from Minneapolis.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science, become the mayor or something, make the situation better for other people. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Remember that to love America is to love all Americans, because love has no labels.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish! In your face, in your face,
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to this final segment of Ignite, Empower, Transform. My name is Hosea James Gavan II, and we are here with none other than Mr. James Holmes. James, you and I have a 40-plus year relationship, man. We went to college together at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. We pledged Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity together, and we have maintained our close relationship from then.
And we always will.
Amen. 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 But what I want to talk about in this final segment is what I perceive to be a disturbing trend across America, and you can see it vividly in Minneapolis. At one time, I considered Minneapolis one of the major cities that seemed to be very progressive, very open-minded. It seemed like race relationships were pretty solid. You can tell by the level of interracial marriages, high level in that city at one time. And all of a sudden, that particular place became the place that changed the world. Let's talk about Minneapolis past, present, and future. Let's talk about how it evolved from where it is today from back in the day.
Absolutely. Minneapolis definitely was one of the more progressive cities in all of the United States. As a matter of fact, that's how I got here. I was born in rural Arkansas, and my parents came up here for a better opportunity, and that was so. We did have a better opportunity, better education, better school systems, better relations all around. That's an absolute fact. As a matter of fact, I grew up in an integrated high school and never really experienced anything significantly stressful in regards to race relations. So Minneapolis, instead of going forward, unfortunately, it's gone backwards by quite a ways. I was talking to one of our, I guess, media representatives last week about it, who also grew up here, and basically it's like we went to sleep. It's like we went to sleep, we became complacent, but the white supremacists and the racists, they never stopped working. They think about it, and that's a trend nationally too. As I mean,
Absolutely.
that's how the past president got elected. I mean, is because those nefarious forces never stopped working. We assume because we didn't see them regularly, we assumed maybe they weren't there or they went away. They never went away, and they never stopped working. And so I think that as a country and as a state and as a town, maybe we got a little bit complacent. And so they grabbed a lot more momentum, and it shows right now because Minneapolis, once one of the most progressive cities in the United States, right now we are number 2 as far as the wealth disparity in the nation between Black and white. Number 2 worst in the nation. So this has to be addressed, and this is why I'm taking my time, energies, efforts, and expertise to address it in a very, very diligent and tenacious manner.
Say, man, I know you've been working closely with the Reverend Jesse Jackson in relation to helping to create a remedy for some of the challenges that Reverend Jesse Jackson and his son to help remedy some of the challenges that are happening there in Minneapolis. How's the good Reverend doing, man?
I think he looks good. I'll tell you this: he's like 80. His mind is sound and is solid, and I lean on him for advice. Him and Jonathan. We have our chats, and they're helpful to me. They really are, because a lot of people think, Reverend Jackson, we don't hear from him. He's vanished. No, he hasn't. He knows what's going on, and I'll tell you what, he's got a lot of wisdom. And as far as I'm concerned, much respect, much respect.
I agree, man. You probably remember I was very instrumental in 1984 when he first ran for president here in the United States. And in New York, I actually coordinated the statewide volunteer effort for his campaign. So I've been connected to Jesse Jackson since our freshman year when I went down to St. Louis as part of a crew of Drake University students to help support the St. Louis teacher strike down there, up through just watching you, man. I think the last time I was actually physically with him was the day of the inauguration in 2009 in Washington, D.C. But I gotta say, man, he does not get his full due. We would not have had an Obama. We would not have had a lot of the congressional seats that we were able to obtain from the mid 80s through now, if not for his intense voter registration drives. They're talking about Stacey Abrams, but Jesse Jackson in the mid 80s, he had an incredible nationwide voter registration drive. He was using his campaign to get more people involved in the political process. And I just don't believe he gets his due. I have so much respect for Reverend Jesse Jackson and his impact, particularly on the political landscape of this country for the Black people in America. So I'm glad that you're working with him. I'm glad that he's mentoring you, and he's got a lot of wisdom, and I'm glad that you guys have that relationship.
Thank you, Ship. I appreciate it. I'll tell you something. You've been around him, so you've seen his schedule. I don't think many 25-year-olds can keep up with his schedule. I'm serious.
I hear that.
Pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. I consider him a 1%, no doubt.
He's been a world changer. He's been a historical figure in this country, and he will go down as one of the most impactful Black leaders in our country. And on that note, Chip, I want to say thank you, James, for joining us and sharing with us the update in Minneapolis. Keep doing what you do, brother. It is so important right now to kind of galvanize our people and help to steer them in the right direction. You're doing that through your foundation and through your company. I hope you get the right support that you deserve and we must have in order for Black businesses to flourish, because that's critical in today's world.
Thank you, Shep. Thank you. Appreciate it. And you be blessed and stay blessed.
Thank you, Shep. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform. My name is Hosea James Gavan II, and remember, if it's in your heart, do your part. Today's help equals tomorrow's hope. I love our youth. Power to the people.
Your son wants to get a cat, but you're allergic.
Maybe he could be an outdoor cat that lives in our neighbor's yard, 3 doors down.
Mom! You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Operation Wonder Park is a go!
There's nothing more powerful than imagination. But don't just imagine. Use STEM to change the world.
Who's with me?
Oh, it's gonna hurt tomorrow.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
When I was in high school, I was physically at school, but my mind wasn't at school. I had problems at home, and that's hard when you feel like you're doing it alone. That's when I met an artist, my mom, as I'll call her. She started helping me a little bit, like, Nia, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but your future is more important. She's my strength. Just being a support for those hard days and those hard nights, not giving up on me. Thank you to my mama. I wouldn't have did this if it wasn't for her. Today is for my mama and everybody who had my back. It takes a village to help somebody get their diploma. Some people would think, well, maybe it's really not that big of a deal, but it really is. It changes your whole life.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.